In this comparison video, we're going to take a look at geometry operations in Illustrator, Inkscape, and Affinity. Geometry operations are sometimes called Pathfinder or Boolean operations, and I hope you get the idea. You combine objects to new objects. Another part of this is the Shape Builder tool and the Live Paint Bucket tool, which also have counterparts in Inkscape and Affinity. I'm going to take a look at them in a later video. And also, what needs to be a part of this are compound paths and compound shapes. So let's open the Pathfinder panel in Illustrator. Here it is. And at the top, we have the Boolean operations. And those can also be turned into compound shapes. The logic of them is you select these objects, and of course stacking order is crucial in this, and then you hit one of these buttons to perform the operation. Like this, and they are combined. I'm going to undo that. When you hold down Alt and hit this, then you get a compound shape, which means you can later edit that and move the parts around. And you can also add to that and add more shapes. Now we have the add, we have subtract. So let's take this one here for subtraction. And then we have the intersect. And it's important to check out how it works, because on this here, the three circles, we get an error message because they do not have one shared space. So let's take this, we have a shared space, and then we get a result. On the other hand, if we exclude, then this one works. The result of this is interesting again. So let's go to the Layers panel, and there we have it. It's turned into a group. But if we have enclosed shapes and then use subtract on that, we get a compound path. Compound paths can also be made by object compound path make, and it has a shortcut, so it's quicker. Now let's take a look at the second row, at the bottom row. There we have divide, which cuts this at every intersecting line. Then we have trim, which does cutting as well, but you are left with what was visible. And the next one is a pretty powerful one, merge, which also combines those that have the same color, no matter where they are in the stacking order. The next one, crop, is mostly used for expanding clipping masks. And it's important to note that there is a stroke in here. If I'm going to use that, then you see the stroke is ignored, but we get the clipping mask expanded. Then we have the next one, outline, which cuts all the lines and also turns them into outlines, as you can see. So these have no fill and no stroke because they didn't have a fill in the beginning. So that's what Illustrator has to offer. This one is like subtract, but in the reverse order. Let's get to Inkscape next. And we have the geometry operations here in the path menu. We have union, difference, intersection, and exclusion. So let's take a look at them. So here we have union, and you see it unites. The next one is the difference, and that's where it gets important. Now we have a couple of objects, and when I'm using it here, then you see nothing happens. So what I need to do first is select them all and make a compound path. So let's go to path and combine, and then select the bottom one. And now the difference works. Then the next one, we have the intersection, and again we have these shapes that do not have a common overlap. So let's go to intersection, and you see they are gone. No error message here, but if they have an intersection, then this works. And the next one is the exclusion, and you see this works as well. So then we also have divide, but it's not this one. Divide is that one, fracture. And you see we get the expected result. We also have that trim operation that Illustrator has. So let's go to path, flatten, and we are left with the things that have been visible before. Let's take a look at these two here, because again, they need some preparation. So what we need to do first is I'm going to select this and deselect the circle. And then first of all, we need to combine these. I'm going to select this here and let's make a duplicate. And then I'm going to select these two and let's make the division. And you see, we've got this result here. Now there's also a method to just divide this circle. So let's go to Path and Cut Path. And I'm going to select these and just apply a stroke so you can see that. So now we've just cut that path. Inkscape also has a special method for separating compound paths. Now this is text. If we go to Path, Object to Path, then we have outlined the text, and then we need to separate these compound paths now. So when we go to Path, Break Apart, then you see all the compound paths got released and the counters are filled, and you might not want that. So let's do that again and go to Path, Split Path. And then you see we've got all the letters as separate compound paths, which therefore still have their counters. So that's pretty nice functionality. Let's take a look at Affinity. In Affinity, we've got the geometry operations in vector geometry. So these are the ones it has. And then we also have the compound path here. And then we have some commands down here, which are important as well. There are also some buttons up here, which are important for creating compound shapes. Let's select those paths. And if we use these by holding down the Alt key, then this creates compound shapes, as you can see. And as you can also see in the layers panel, here we've got a compound. And then again, we also have the subtract operation, for which I'm going to turn to the menu. So let's go to Geometry, Subtract. And you see, this operates like in Illustrator. And then also we have these in here. And I'm going to the intersect. And you see, they are gone like in Inkscape without the warning. But if they have the common shape, then you can safely intersect them. The next one we're going to do is the XOR. So you see the exclude operation, and then we have the divide operation, and this cuts everything. So these are all. Affinity doesn't have the trim operation or merge. So let's take a look at those compound paths. Or first of all, let's also do divide on this here. So again, we do not need to create a compound path first. You can just use divide on it, and then you get this result. And then let's take a look at compound paths. So when I outline this text, going to vector, convert to curves. And now what we get is a group. So first of all, we need to ungroup this. And then we've got two compound paths. And then here we can separate them like this. And you see, this also fills the counters. So I'm going to undo that. What Affinity has to offer on top of that is the method to fill the holes, which just gets rid of those enclosed shapes instead of just releasing that. I'm going to undo. And we also have remove inner curves, but that doesn't do anything here. So that only works when you have a certain fill rule applied. So we've got two shapes, and then we can merge them to create the compound path. And now it's important how the fill mode is set up. This is now set to alternate. So if you set it to winding non-zero, then you see you do not even get a hole because they have the same direction. But it's only then when remove inner curves actually works. I would be curious to know what that command is actually there for. I couldn't find anything. Those are the geometry functions in Illustrator, Inkscape, and Affinity. And if you, like me, are using the bottom row of the Pathfinder panel a lot in Illustrator, then you might have noticed that a lot of efficiency is not there in Affinity.